This is Marlene with Miami Ghost Chronicles, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Stories of the Supernatural. Wherever you find us, whether it's a video or podcast on your favorite platform, please like and subscribe to us so that you can get notification of when a new show is released. You can also find us on major social media platforms. If you go to MiamiGhostChronicles.com, you can find links to the videos or MP3 files, which you can download and enjoy without commercial interruptions. If you're into classic horror, ghost, and adventure stories, I narrate Nightshade Diary, and you can find links at nightshadediary.com. If scary stories are your bag, and listening to encounters with cryptids, ghosts, dogman, and other weird creatures sends a shiver up your spine, then go to supernaturalstorytime.com for links to our weekly podcasts. Noteworthy news about the paranormal world, true crime, conspiracy stories, and anything that is just plain weird can be found at eerie.news or visit the Stranger Than Fiction Stories tab at miamighostchronicles.com. Please subscribe to my newsletter on Substack. Just go to mppellicer.com for a link. I want to thank you for being part of my audience, and I think you are all wonderful. Hi, how's everybody doing? Good, I hope. I'm doing good, despite what I sound like. All right, so do you see me taking... it happens on occasion, an allergy that morphed and took over, and it's become like a little bit of a head cold. Even though I'm not running a fever or anything, it's just, I sound worse than I feel, even though I don't know. I don't feel like feeling this way, like your head's full of, I don't know, cotton or something. So yeah, I sound worse than I am. But anyway, yeah, because I know people are going, what's wrong with you? And, and it's really funny because everybody always thinks of winter colds. Sometimes when you get stuff in the summer, it's like, ugh. But anyway, everything is good. It's really funny because I know everybody says, Marlene, you're always complaining about how all the commercialization, and now that we're going. And yesterday, I'm not going to say what I was doing, but I was with a group of people. By the way, we weren't friends. As a matter of fact, some of us had met yesterday for the first time. It was a group of us, right? The conversation, I can't remember how, went in that direction. And everybody said the same thing. It was like, man, I can't believe they're already putting stuff up in all these stores, including Walmart, which is the biggest one, of all these holiday stuff. And I was like, I guess I'm not the only one. And everybody was like, hey. And as a matter of fact, there was one lady, she says, oh my God, all the gardening stuff. And because remember, in South Florida, this is not South Florida, but Florida, there is winter, but there's no snow. In other words, we're gardening and doing outside stuff for a long time. She was like, all the stuff has been put away or it's been in a corner. And yeah, my point being what I've always complained about, and I was glad to hear I wasn't the only one, which is over commercialization of they're already gearing up for these last 4 months, and it's like, what's the hurry? Why can't we take this slow? Everybody, and even a couple of men that were there, usually men don't put their 2 cents worth into this. They said, yeah, we gotta notice that. It's crazy. And I guess, as a hypnotherapist, I look at the effort to drive behavior in a certain way, right? Because let's face it, it's inevitable that if you go to do shopping for anything else and you start seeing all this stuff, all right, you start thinking, oh my God, yeah, oh, Thanksgiving, oh, don't get me, I love the holidays, I love them, but it's like anticipation is great, but not if you have a 4-month anticipation. It's like, can't we anticipate it as it comes along? And then, you make memories, whatever. Some people are not into the holidays. I know that, but still. And it's like, oh, yeah, I don't know. I always look at it, like I said, as far as the way our behavior is driven, even when we're not aware of it. All right? Even when we're not aware of it. So, yeah, I will keep on. But on that note, yes, I'm confirming again, I will have my Halloween live stream, which, by the way, this year Halloween falls on a Thursday, and that's when I'm going to do it. My point being that usually everybody that's going to a Halloween party has gone to one the weekend before, and hopefully then you'll all be available to come and watch the live stream. I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know if I'm going to do a live stream or not. Let me see. But either way, I'm going to have the Halloween themed show somewhere in there. Something interesting to talk about. Ghost stories, of course, or weird stories, or, God knows there's plenty of that. But let's get on to. Oh, and by the way, everybody was asking me, Marlene, show. Let me see if I can find it. Because I've been showing pictures of me once upon a time doing ghost, you know, going out on investigations, but at the end of the show. But let me see if I can get this on real quick. They said, what? I'm going to show you. This, I think, is. I was looking for stuff. This is back from. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, let me see. Hold on. Hold on. Let's see. Okay. Entire screen. No. Oh. Oh. You know what? I'm going to have to look for it again. And because I had it up, but it's one of those things that it just decides to do what it wants to do. It's a picture of me. Yeah, let me see. Let me see. This is what, yeah, this is from 2005. I'll bring it up later on. Anyway, let's get on to the good part. The good part is who is the guest today at Stories of the Supernatural. This is the first time that he's here. His name is James Creachbaum, but he's also known as JC the Hitman. He's been investigating the paranormal for 30 plus years all over the US, and there is nothing in the paranormal he hasn't seen or done, and to help people with paranormal problems. He retired from Boots on the Ground helping people in 2019. He's been on different cable TV shows, and he still speaks at many different paracons through the year. He's also been interviewed on many different paranormal radio shows, and he's currently the host of his own show titled JC the Hitman Show on Night Dreams Talk Radio Network, which airs on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern with guests covering all things paranormal. And I'm going to put also his website link on the credits of the show, which is jcthehitmanshow.com. Talking points, and this is him talking points on how I got started into the paranormal. We're going to talk about that because he was already going to give me this great story, okay, about the Bermuda Triangle, and I had to stop him. I said, no, wait. I got to let my audience hear this, so help me welcome him. How are you doing today, JC?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here. Yes, it's I forgot all about the Bermuda event that I went through until we was talking about Florida. I was like, oh my goodness, I forgot about that. It was so long ago.
Yeah. You know what? There was once upon a time that there was more hype. I guess it was like in the 70s and 80s about the Bermuda Triangle, and then it kind of like faded away. But there was once upon a time, and still a lot of weird stuff has always gone on in there.
It,
But what happened with you?
yeah, it was strange because I was living in Florida right after graduation, early '80s, and I was living with my cousin who was about 5 years older than me. We'd go fishing, we'd work a little bit during the day, and then we'd go fishing at night and stuff. And then he goes, "Hey, let's go out on this charter boat. You can, you put a few dollars in, and we were like pro fishermen. It's like we can win this. We catch the biggest fish." I was like, "Sure, I'm all in." Plus you win like some free pizzas and a free pass and all this stuff. So we went on, and sure enough, I caught a 38-inch mackerel, so I won the thing, right?
Wow.
Yeah. And I was so excited. So then I had a free pass. So I was like, you know what? Let's go back next week. I might as well try to win again, right? I got a free
Yeah.
pizza and a free pass. And plus, we got to keep our fish. So we go next week. Now, this boat, I forget the name of it, but it was a 60-footer. And it was leaving out of, I think, Boynton Beach, I think, or Delray, one of the two there. And anyway, so we go out. It's nice sunny day. And we would go way out, way out. Pretty much you'd be in the edge, what they would consider edge of the Bermuda Triangle.
Mm-hmm.
Fishing for mackerel or barracuda, or just whatever, or bonitas.
Okay.
And so we're fishing away, and I am telling you, Marlene, out of nowhere, and I mean this. Now, this was before they had, really sophisticated, equipment like they do today. You can tell when the storms come up, but this
Right.
storm came out of nowhere. I mean, like seriously, I can see how people could get in trouble, because when this storm came, now remember, we went out, it was sunny, it was 85, 90 degrees, calm water, because we went in there, went out. If we had forecast, it was going to be like what we ended up. So
Right.
anyway, it's coming. It was black, and it's like, now remember, we're so far out that even we turned around right then and started going. We can't outrun
You
it.
can outrun it.
Yeah, we're gonna get caught in it either way. And the captain was freaking out, so he says, we're gonna try to get back. And man, this storm come up, Marlene, and it come out of nowhere, and we went from calm seas, sunny, till, and I kid you not, and I never experienced this before or since, 12-foot waves. Now, I don't know if
Wow.
I don't know if anybody's ever experienced 12-foot waves, but I'm going to explain it to you. When you're on a 12-foot wave on a 60-foot boat with about 40 people, what happens, the boat goes up on top of the wave, and then the bottom drops out, and that boat slams down, okay? And when it slams down, you see nothing but water all around you, 12 foot above you. It's the freakiest thing in the world.
And how many passengers did you guys have on there?
Probably about 40.
Wow. Oh my God. Those people must have been like,
They were freaking out. And
I bet.
the only ones that weren't freaking out too bad is the ones that were so sick they couldn't freak out. Okay.
Yeah, I've been there, done that. Yeah.
So that's the freakiest. Like, you can't, it's really messing with your mind, because you see nothing but water when you're on the downslope once you slam, but then the wave comes back up and the bottom drops out, and it repeats over and over and over again. Okay. It was so bad. And the wind and the lightning, we had to take heavy duty fishing string, because we had hats on, and tie it around the hat and tie it to our belt buckle so we wouldn't lose them. Okay. People, they were like tying themselves off so they wouldn't get washed over. I mean, it was wild. I never experienced nothing like it. It come out of nowhere. I mean, just right now.
Let me tell you that I've heard of that. I've heard of that happening. Let me ask you, you said something that the captain was wigging out too?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, he was.
That's not a good thing.
Listen,
when you got the captain wigging out, it's like, oh,
listen,
it's not good.
That is bad vibes. That's a red flag. When you're out on, way out, I mean, miles out, okay, and a storm comes out of nowhere in the Bermuda Triangle, and your captain's freaking out, I tell you, your hope meter, it really goes down.
Yeah, because usually it's like, man, at least pretend pretend it's all good, even if you go back and you're like tearing your hair out. But man, don't do that.
And on top of that, I never experienced waves more than maybe 3 foot. But these were 12 footers, and I was praying to God that the boat didn't crack and break open, because I mean, it
could have capsized also.
Because at 12 foot, when the wave comes out, you just slam down, and it beat the heck out of us, man. And it beat the heck out of that boat. I'm glad we made it back, because
so I can imagine, did everybody cheer when they saw the shoreline?
Oh my God! Yeah, they did. Everybody was.
I knew it. It was like,
we were cheering and happy to see that shoreline. Oh my goodness!
Let me tell you, one time, and this is like, ignorance is bliss. Obviously, you're out in the water, but one time, we went out on a. It's probably around the same size. It was maybe a little bit bigger, but it's a gambling boat. And, they go out like, I think it's 12 miles when you're in international waters.
Yeah.
And then you can go ahead and actually gamble, right? So they anchor, they will, throw anchor. And I remember we were out there and we said, we've been gambling. Let's take a stroll around the deck. And when this boat anchors, it has these lights. It's nighttime. And, it has these lights all around the perimeter on it that shine on the water.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember all of a sudden I look and I go, man, that's a shark. And then I look over here and I go, wait, there's another shark, because we're right there, right on the surface. So you could hit the spot. When we looked, and I know part of it is that, believe it or not, they know that these ships throw out food and stuff into the water.
Yep.
I couldn't believe it. The entire ship, we walked around the perimeter along the deck. It was surrounded by sharks. Yeah. I couldn't tell they were, there were nothing. There's not like a great white or anything. They were maybe black tip or something. They were skinnier sharks from what I could tell. Mm-hmm. But I could not believe the entire ship was surrounded. It was like, okay, I'm going to go back inside and gamble. I don't even want to stand out there.
And I forgot about that too, because we had a lot of sharks too before all the storm came in, because
Yeah.
they associate the boats with food,
Yes.
because whenever we'd catch some fish, sometimes you'd be fighting, next thing you wouldn't, because they'd just come up and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
eat your fish. And so they know when them boats are out there, there's going to be food, either fish or, like you say, people
Yes.
throwing stuff off. So I'm sure, believe me, we did not want to end up in the water.
No, it's like, let me tell you, that moment, it was like, oh man, this is like one of those, because one thing is when you see it in a movie, and another thing is when you're there and you go, well,
Yeah.
and
Well,
thankfully it was like very calm, it was, but yeah, but one time I went out on a charter boat, and it wasn't 12-foot waves, obviously, but I thought, it's like, why did this captain go out? He should have just canceled this trip, because
yeah.
everybody was sick as a dog. And when we saw the shoreline, it was like, and we looked at him, we go, look, and he's like, no, it's like, oh my God. Everybody, and when I mean everybody that was a passenger on there was barfing.
Right. And that's the other thing. You don't really, even if you turn, like, we're miles away, like, and
Yeah.
one of them ships, even at full throttle, which you can't do
Yes.
because that's more dangerous, it's going to take hours to get back in.
Yes. Right. All of a sudden, this is like when you tell somebody in those scenarios, it takes hours. It's like if you're telling them it's going to take days, it's like, oh my God, no.
Oh, I,
But yeah, weird stuff does happen out there.
yeah. Now, again, that was in the early 80s. They got equipment now. Hopefully that stuff doesn't happen as much, but
Mm-hmm.
that was quite the day. Let me tell you, I never forgot it.
Right. And part of the thing about well, they call it the Devil's Triangle or the Bermuda Triangle, is that instruments are supposed to malfunction. That you get sometimes weird readings as far as even instrumentation. Stuff just goes berserk.
Yeah. Now, as far as I know, we didn't have any equipment malfunctions. Of course, he might have been holding that back, but he wasn't holding his
That would have
emotions.
been like the worst.
He wasn't holding his emotions back about panicking. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yes. Yes. Because let me tell you, there's for anybody, and let me ask you something. That was that was your the I guess you get another another trip out there. It wasn't like he didn't make it up until, okay, you guys can come back for free for another round, and be like, no thanks.
No, no. I actually, believe it or not, we got some fish in before all that hit, and I
Oh
actually,
yeah.
yeah, and I won that one too with a lot, because the fishing wasn't as good that day, and another free pizza, and I actually won another trip out with the boat. I didn't go; I gave it away, but I got the free pizza.
What was he trolling out there? What were you guys going out there for? What did you?
No, you know what, he'd had, now he had, like, he had certain spots and a couple some fish
Yeah,
spots.
they know there are no places
Yeah,
to go to. Yeah.
yeah, and we'd go out there and just kind of drift, and you would fish for a while, and if you didn't catch nothing, we'd go to his other spot, because
Mm-hmm.
that's his business. He had to keep the fishermen happy, or he wouldn't,
Sure.
they wouldn't keep coming back, but boy, he had some good spots. I'll give him that. But
Yeah.
when you got 12-foot waves and
And let me tell you something.
storm from hell, forget
So let
it.
me ask you something, James C. How did you get involved in the paranormal? Did you have an experience in life, or how did you become interested in that?
Well, I've been involved in paranormal, even though I've been trying to get away from it for years. It started with me when I was probably about 3.5, 4 years old. I was seeing I was actually playing with a little Native American Indian boy every day, and and he was outside. I played with him every day. I don't know no better at 3.5, 4 years old. To me, he was just a neighbor kid up the street. You know what I mean? He looked real to me. I can look
Right.
back now, and that was a spirit boy for sure. But at the time, I don't know no better. I don't even know what spirits are at 3.5, 4 years old.
Sure.
So we'd play every day, and I'd ask him, hey, because my mom fixed me lunch. You want to come in and eat lunch with me? He would never come in. And I asked him one day, why don't you come in and eat lunch with me? He says, I'm scared. There's no way. I'm scared of the mean old man in there. And the mean old man, he was right. And that was a spirit too. But I didn't know that then. But I couldn't
Right.
really, figure out in my head, why is there a mean old man in my house with me and my mom and dad? I don't know no better. I'm 3.5, 4. I'm stupid. And, but he was right. There was a mean old man. He was a spirit too. And one day I got this Spider-Man book, and I go upstairs and I show my mom. She's, oh, that was great. She goes, be careful going down the steps. And I turn around and go back downstairs, and at the head of this staircase is this mean old man. Okay. I mean,
Wow.
he's got a scowl on him that would scare an adult. Okay. Now I'm looking at him. My anxiety's through the roof, and I got to figure out how to get by him. So I just kind of like try to scamper by him real fast, to get back downstairs, and I feel in my back, Marlene, like 2 hands just push me, like, boom.
Oh.
And I'm 3 and a half, 4 years old. He pushed me, and I went head over on wooden steps. There was blood everywhere. I was a mess, I'll tell you. And that was my first with something a little bit more nefarious, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Grumpy old man. But thankfully, a couple weeks after that, we moved out of that house or apartment, I should say. I am so glad. But
Let me ask you, did you ever hear from your mom or your dad later on that they had their own experiences?
you know, well, my mom and dad, they um they grew up in a different generation where you don't talk about it
Yes, I know.
or
I
you
know
don't
exactly
believe
what you
it.
mean.
I I know my dad would, but I'm pretty sure my mom has experienced some things because she mentioned to me, "So remember that little Indian boy you used to play with?" And I was like, "Yeah, I sure do." But I think she was seeing things. I think she's seen that old man too. But
Right, because I was thinking, man, that thing that you moved out a couple of weeks later,
yeah, because
it's like,
I told her the old man pushed me out. And listen, I wouldn't have an imaginary friend that was an old mean man. I mean, you know what I mean?
right, exactly.
So yeah, so thankfully, I think she might have seen something. She definitely must have believed me. I'm just glad we moved out of there because that would have been horrible to have to grow up with that all the time.
You know what? It's really funny because I have heard of people that are experiencing things, and when they start talking about moving out, activity ramps up. It's
Yeah.
almost like whatever is there,
Mhm.
it doesn't, it's like, okay, I don't know whether it's they want to push them out or they just want to, it amps up activity when there's movement or conversations about leaving.
Yep. Another thing happened there too. That I forgot all about this, but it just hit me. But another time in that house, I was sitting on the floor with my back against the wall, and above me was my mom had what they call them like wall pockets. It's a ceramic thing. You put little flowers in or something was on the wall. And
Right.
it was very secure. Somehow that thing, and I think he did it, slammed it down on my head and it busted
Oh,
my head. Yeah,
God.
I still got the scar on my head to this
That's,
day. But I'm looking back, I think he might have did that too. Yeah, it was in the same
yeah.
house, you know?
Yes, I believe it.
Yeah.
And it looks like you were the target. He just didn't like
Yeah.
kids.
My goodness. Uh, well, I've always been kind of sensitive to spirits all through my life, so I think he knew that. And I don't. Maybe he was just trying to get a message to me, but I was, I'm 4. What do I know? I don't even know. I don't even know what a spirit is.
But you know what? People think, there's people that they don't like kids when they were alive. They just don't like. How's this? They're not, because there's people that's like, I don't like kids, but they're indifferent. They're like, okay. But there's people that hate kids when they're alive. And then when they pass
Yeah.
on and they hang out as a ghost, they still don't like kids. They're
I
like,
Yeah, I listen, for anybody, spirit, human, or living, that push somebody down, a 4-year-old down the steps, that's horrible. I couldn't imagine.
yo, you know what? I don't want to be dramatic, but that almost sounds like he wanted to kill you.
I'm telling you, yeah, it's wonder I didn't die. That was pretty
Yeah, of course.
tough.
You
Yeah,
know.
I think it took a beating, that's for sure. But man,
So what happened? So then was that in Florida or was that in another state?
no, that was in Ohio when that happened.
Okay.
We'd moved from Florida after that. It was shortly after though, but yeah, that was in Ohio. And then I could see him on and off, and as I got older, I tried because it's awkward when you're trying to be preteen and
Oh
teenage
boy,
years.
yeah.
The last thing on my mind was trying to deal with spirits, or because after a while I figured out these got to be spirits because nobody else is seeing these things, and why are they coming to me? I don't know. So I try to ignore all that stuff, put it to a side. And I mean, I had another encounter that things always come to a head with me, even when I tried to ignore them. Because, and I've said this before, there was this girl in high school. She was really rich and really beautiful and all this stuff. And I said, hey, finally, I talked to her, going out with me. She said, yeah, I'll go out with you. Just don't tell nobody. I was like, sure, I don't care. I don't care. Let's go. So we go out, and where I lived here in Ohio, where they have these what they call oil well roads in the middle of nowhere on these little mountains. And it's
Okay.
basically just a dirt road wide enough for one vehicle. It goes back in where they drilled this oil well. You can turn around and they cap the well, but there's one way in, one way out.
Uh-huh.
So we go there, it's like people call them lovers, our lovers lane, so to speak. So we're sitting there having a few beverages. We haven't been there maybe 5 minutes, and the lady says, "Hey, I need to go to the bathroom." I was like, "Well, it's your lucky day because you got
Yeah.
open bathroom to pick your choice." I don't know what to tell you,
Right.
So she goes out in front of the car, and I got this 70 Chevelle, and I'm sitting there, and she's in front of the car doing her thing, and I just happen to look up. Now she's right in front of me, dead center in the car, but you can just see the back of her head.
Right.
But out in front of her, the moon's out, it's pretty kind of bright, and I can see, Marlene, these three shadow figures. They come out of the woods from the right, okay, and they're about, I don't know, I'm guessing maybe 40 yards ahead of me, 30 yards, something like that. They come out on this middle of this road, and I kid you not, they stop, and they all three did this, turned their heads and looked at us, and I was like, "Oh,
Oh.
no!" I was praying, "Don't let her see these. Don't let her see these three shadow." Like it was weird. Like they were, you could like see through them, but they were dark and they were shadow. I think there was just human spirits. But they'd stop, and the way they stopped, and then they like,
In other words, they were aware
oh
of
yeah,
you.
the way they stopped, and they like just I don't know how to explain it. They'd all turned their heads at the same time and looked at us. That was freaky. Okay, and when they they did that, she jumped up out of there, man. She got in the car. She was freaking out.
Oh, so she saw it.
Oh yeah, she saw. She was looking right ahead of him. She's outside the car with no protection, so she's really freaking out, right? And now she thinks it's my fault. She thinks I brought her there on purpose to scare her, and that was not. That was the last thing
Uh
I
huh.
wanted her to see, right? So that day went south like real quick. So she gets in, freaking out. Now she's, let's get out of here. So so now we're going to leave. Now here's the catch 22 of this, Marlene. I've got to go through these people because there's woods on each side of me. I can't go around. I got to go
Okay.
through them. All right. So
So you're like, what do I do?
yeah, right. So I want to get out of there too. So I drove through them, and when we went through them, it was almost like it was weird because it was like going into a cold. It got real cold. Like you could feel a cold spot. The whole car was
Okay.
cold. We went through them. It was almost as if you ever hear like you're watching TV, or like when your ears pop and you can't hear. It was almost like
Yes.
that when we went through it. Plus, it was cold at the same time, and we got out of there. But that was that was in my
Did you ever find out had anybody? Well, back then, sometimes, like you said, sometimes people had those experiences and they didn't talk about it.
yeah.
About anybody else going out there to park and having a.
Because back then they probably wouldn't have said nothing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
But
know. I
the
know.
land that we was on's got a lot of history of,
Okay, there you
with the,
go.
pioneers and the Native Americans and just fighting each
Sure.
other, and there was a lot of bloodshed off and on throughout the years. You're talking 200-300 years history, so I'm sure
Yes.
that's probably what, it was a couple 3 spirits there that, we
You want me
happen to
to
be.
tell you something? I have noticed sometimes wherever there's stuff where you dig into the earth, whether it's a basement, a cellar, a well, an oil, this is what you're
Yep,
telling me.
yep.
There's just something about manifestations that are real. Oh, what's the
Mhm.
word I'm looking? Dark. Like, I don't know. There's something about stuff that's dug in the earth. That stuff
Yeah.
around it is very unusual and very like, what?
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. I've investigated many times, did a lot of research, and there is, you're right, a correlation between oil wells, but in coal mines,
Yes, mines. Yes.
and spirits and stuff. And it does seem like a lot. I've helped a lot of people have been on a house, had no hauntings, but so they oil well come in, start drilling or fracking or something.
Uh
All of a
huh.
sudden, they've got increased with spirits. Now, I can't say that's why, but there is a
Yes.
correlation there for sure.
And I'm sure you've heard how many ghost stories or experiences have you had? Basement, cellar is like, oh my God, like the worst. I mean, the rest of the house could have some type of
Yeah.
manifestation, but what's in the cellar, the basement is the worst.
It's it's
It's
always
always the worst.
it's always the basement and the cellar.
Yes.
You're right, or a crawl space, which is even worse.
Yes. Yes. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, the crawl space. Let me tell you something. And as a matter of fact, even if you have stuff where you got human or inhuman, the inhuman stuff, that's where they hang out. Is the basement, the crawl
yeah.
space, the
You're
in the corner of the basement is that kind of. It's like, oh
you
boy.
are so right. I mean, like every time it's like that's look, I know where they are already. Even if you're trying to get them out, they're hiding in an attic or a basement or crawl
Yeah.
space. It just is,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yes, they do. They do, and it's really weird, but they do.
Matter of fact, it's funny you mentioned the crawl space because one time I was evicting some nefarious spirits out of a house, and well, one spirit particularly, and there was a crawl space, and he was in there. I know he was in there, so it's funny because this crawl space just had maybe I don't know, maybe 2 foot by 2 foot.
Mm-hmm.
And it had this like wooden door you open up, and as soon as I stuck my head in there, this is what it felt like. Somebody put their hand on my head and pushed me right back out.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
that was freaky. Yeah,
Yes.
I remember that. That was about 5, 6 years ago. But yeah, that was freaky as all get. It felt like somebody literally put their hand on my head and just pushed me right out to say, "Oh no,
It's
you're not
like, get
coming
out
in."
of here.
Yeah, yeah. And the weird part was the lady of the house, because I have her, taking command too to help evict these. She's seen it.
Yes.
She was like, "What just happened?" I was like, "Oh,
Right. Like, yeah. It's not like right. You didn't pull your head out. You got it pushed out.
She could tell. Yeah, you could. She was standing right there. I mean, the way when somebody pushes your head out, it's different than when you pull your head out. You can tell there's something up.
What what's got you started to doing into actually going into investigating this stuff beyond, let's say, a legend tripper?
Yeah. Well, with what I grew up with, I figured it came to a point because there was another point before I really started to get into it because I knew I thought it came to a point. Another what happened was I lived with my cousin and my aunt for about 2 week period, and before I was going to start this big job, but we was working at the same place, and every day we would come home. And his aunt had OCD. They're both passed on now, God bless them. But she would, as soon as you get close, she would clean and wash them. She was just one of those that was on everything. And
Uh-huh.
so anyway, we come home. We was in the same bedroom. It was a huge bedroom, wooden floor. He was on that end, I was on this end. But every morning I would wake up because she'd always do my clothes, fold them nice and everything. She'd set them on a stand right by my bed, and every morning they'd be on the floor by the door. Every morning, and I thought my cousin was doing. I was like, "Why are you doing that?" He goes, "I'm not doing that." I could tell you one line.
Uh-huh.
I was like, "Oh no!" I'm thinking, "Don't let there, don't let there be any spirits in here." You know what I mean? So every
Okay.
night, his future wife, but then was a girlfriend. She lived right below us in this apartment below us, and he would go down there after work and spend the night with her until she'd go to bed. And he'd come upstairs and go to bed. So he was directly below me.
Okay.
And it was about 11 o'clock. I told my aunt, I'm going to go to bed. So I just walk in, I just get on the bed, I just lay down. And this is what it sounded like, Marlene. You ever see them big stainless steel pans? I mean, them big ones and giant ones.
Yes.
What I heard sounded like that full of other stainless steel pans. And it sounded like somebody took that and slammed it as hard as they could right beside me on that oak wood floor. And I kid
Yeah.
you not, my aunt come running in, my cousin come running upstairs because he was right below it. It
Right.
it it they had to peel me off the ceiling. I literally thought my soul left my body.
I bet.
It shocked me so bad. Like, she come running, she thought something blew up. I mean,
Right, yeah. That's what
it
people
was
always think when they hear these noises that are like,
massively loud. Seriously, think about stainless steel pans slamming on a hardwood oak floor when you're not expecting it dark. You're laying in your bed and it's dark.
and
Oh my goodness. It about gave me a heart attack, even though I was in my 20s, right? So we looked around. There was nothing out of place. Okay, that's even more freaky. There was nothing fell over, nothing.
right.
I knew right away what was up.
So let
And
me
yeah,
that had they been living there for a while at this house?
they lived there for maybe a month, maybe.
Oh, okay, so I hadn't been there long.
No, they hadn't been there long. So I had I yes, I knew right away what was up. I just hadn't seen him, but I thought I was feeling him.
Right.
So I did a little history research, and sure enough, there was another grumpy old man that owned that place. At one time, it was a farmhouse. Now it was like the edge of town. It was pretty much part of the city, and there was no
Okay.
barn or nothing. But Yeah, he had never left apparently, and he didn't like either me. I think what it was, I think he knew that sometimes I could feel or see spirits. And I think he was trying to get my attention
You
because
got it, right?
I kept ignoring him. You know
It's
what
like
I
you
mean?
got it. Don't try so hard. You got it.
I kept ignoring him, and I think finally he had enough. But that was weird. There's nothing out of place. But after that, I told my my aunt and my cousins, I can't live here. I gotta move. I gotta go. And because I knew I would never have no peace there. I couldn't sleep. You know,
And did they stay living there?
they stayed there for another month or so, and I kept. My cousin said they never really experienced anything after that. But
Okay. I was
yeah,
gonna say, did this thing keep going? Which I would believe it would.
I believe it did. They just didn't hang around long enough to experience it. I
I was
think
like, yeah, we don't want to find out.
because that honestly that freaked them out too. I mean, even though it wasn't, she was just in the other room. He was right below me, and it, sounded like an
Exactly.
explosion. So yeah, that freaked them out. They knew it.
I would be. I'd be like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah. So that's what I mean. It came to a head. So then after that, I was like, look, I can't go on in life. I might as well. I'm going to try to grip this stuff by the horns and let it empower me. So I studied, demonology and everything I could with the paranormal and with the abilities and all this stuff, and read everything I could. And then I did something you shouldn't do.
oh, let's hear
I
it.
would,
Let's hear
yeah,
it.
you shouldn't do this. But in the 80s, I would go investigate by myself, because
Oh my God, you're crazy. Solo. What
and I
is that?
listen, and I went in some of the worst places you could ever imagine. Believe me, I went into an asylum. It's not even there no more. It's in Connecticut, where it's very close to where Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun casinos are. It was in that area.
Okay.
Yeah, there was an old asylum there. It was boarded up and everything. And this guy
Okay.
that was working for me, he says, "Yeah, I knew this haunted place you can go to," because he knew what I did on the weekends. And yeah, I went in there. It was you could just feel it in there, an old asylum, right? So I didn't really see anything, but I wasn't there very long. But I heard something. It sounded like somebody took a big, I want to say a big coffee can or something and threw it against the wall. And when I heard that, I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna leave." Okay, so I left after that. There was nobody else in there
Yes.
but me.
You
Yeah,
think?
yeah, yeah.
But you know
So
what? Nowadays, I tell everybody, especially these people, I go, you might go. You got to be careful though. You might got live people. You might have live people in there that are
that,
just as problematic than any
oh,
dead people.
you're right. You're right. You could have vagrants in there. Here's the other
Yes.
thing: you could have rotten boards and fall through
Yeah.
something. You've got termites or cockroaches or bed bugs you can bring home. I mean, you just
Yeah.
don't know. You don't know.
No, you could just get hurt. You could take a fall and break a leg. I know that sounds dramatic, but it happens.
It does happen, and that's the other thing. Like, I was over there by myself. I had no family, nobody else, so it's not like nobody knew where I was or when I'd be
Right.
home. And you don't ever do these things. Make sure you
Yeah.
tell somebody and all that good
Yes.
stuff. So that's what that's when I started taking the grip, and I learned a lot, and I studied a lot, and then did a lot of investigations. Boy, it's
Okay.
stuff I've
All right. And that's
seen.
how you do it. Tell everybody, with when it comes to like paranormal work or paranormal research, you can read all the books, you can look at the shows, well, not the shows, but everything. But field work, that is the best way you learn
It,
about this. Field
yeah,
work.
that's yeah. Only I would suggest going with people.
Oh no, no, no. Absolutely.
Yeah.
At least one other person. And but yes, you can't that solo stuff, that sounds like, yeah, all right, but
Oh,
no, that's got too many problems with it. Like forget
yes.
the dead person aspect, the live person aspect. But yeah, field work is where you really find out first
Yeah.
of all what you're made of.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm pretty fearless. I wasn't.
You know
I,
what? I've come across fearless, supposedly fearless, and
yeah.
that all of a sudden until they have an actual. And by the way, it doesn't even have to be like they cite an apparition. One time we had one where it was I can't remember what museum it was, somewhere in South Florida. It was an old museum, 2-story. She was a new investigator, and they let him in after hours, of course. And everybody's in line of sight, but they're all spread out. She got tapped hard on the shoulder, and
Mm.
all of a sudden they had to take her out, like
Yeah.
scream. That was the end of it. But I'm saying there's a lot of people that
Oh,
they
yeah.
they kind of want to believe, but then when they have that actual
It's true.
moment,
It's
it's like
true.
who. they crumble under the. And anyway, but yeah, you find out what you're made of and if it's for you or not.
And there's two other perfect examples. Why? Because I was this foreman, this job, and on the weekends I would go investigate things by myself, and I became good friends with somebody over there, and he'd always knew the hot spots and things to go to. He'd tell me.
Right.
But then one day he said, "Try this place called Barahack. You can look it up. It's in Connecticut, eastern part of
Okay.
Connecticut, called Barahack, Barahack. It's an old defunct town from I think 16 or 1700s. But anyway, this was back in the late 80s, maybe 1990, late 80s, 89, 90, somewhere around there. But we didn't have internet stuff. So I had to go to the library, and do the research. And I
Right.
found this book on it. And it said the old backcountry road. And you got to look for a certain tree and you park and you got to hike a mile into the woods in the middle of nowhere. So,
Okay. There you
so
go. All right.
I've been a pretty good backwoodsman. So I was confident I could find a place, right? So I had these three big guys working for me because I had to hire people that were pretty big and strong
Uh huh.
because we dug holes all day. I was their foreman, and they knew it. They'd always make fun of me, oh, there's no such thing as this, and oh, you're wasting your time. They'd always bust my balls. So I said to them one day, I said, look, I'm going to this place I've never been to before. Why don't you just come with me? They said, okay, we'll go. I said, I'll buy you lunch. We'll go. It's on me. So I actually found a place, and no one knew where I'm surprised I even found it, but I found it, parked the truck, we get out, and I timed it, Marlene, where I figured about a mile hike into this woods, as long as I didn't get lost. I didn't think I would. Um, that the sun would be going down. The sun would be down. It'd be kind of dark in the woods
Right.
at this village, and all there really was is just ancient rock foundations was all that was left. And there was a
Okay.
lot of reports of shadow people. You could hear like I guess it would be residual like horses and wagons and people talking and just all kind of different things, right?
Right.
EVPs. So we finally get there, and the three guys, the big ones, they're behind me because I was leading the way, and they're probably I don't know, I want to say 20 feet behind me, and I was like, wow, I found it. I'm all excited, and out of nowhere we start hearing the most ungodly noises that you can ever hear in the woods, right? And I knew what they were, okay, because I grew up in the woods. So I turned around to tell these three guys what it was. I didn't want to. All I seen was the backside of them sprinting. They were gone, Marlene. Like they didn't, they didn't want to hear it. I didn't get a chance to tell them what it was. They were gone. They left. I mean, I never seen them sprint or move so fast. Not even working for them. They were gone. And what it was, they didn't know it was close to rut season for deer,
Oh my
and
gosh.
these deer were making, and they weren't backwoodsmen, they were city folk. They never hunted.
So they were like, that's it.
And I'll tell you what, some deer in rut season can make some ungodly noises, and they were doing it that night, and it freaked them out. They were gone. Okay,
And
so
you're like, hey,
I
yeah, that's what I
started,
mean.
I started laughing. So I stayed around a little bit longer. I did see like a shadow person. I heard did get an EVP of like somebody talking. It could have been residual. I don't know if it was even intelligent or not. So after a while, I said, okay, this was interesting. Another one I could mark off my checklist. So I get back out. I hike back out. Now, mind you, these three are in my truck. They got the doors locked. One's got a hammer. One's got the tire iron. I'm like, what are you guys doing? You're gonna kill a ghost with a hammer? You got the
Yeah,
door locked.
whatever.
I started laughing. Now, from that day on, I bust their balls because I told them what it was and how chicken they were.
Did they believe you?
I think so. I think after a
All
while,
right.
believe me. Yeah. Yeah. And then on the other note of that, by yourself, because my friend would tell me these places, and this was about 1988 or 89. It was on Halloween. He gave me this location. Now, this was in Rhode Island, and this was before the Conjuring House ever became famous with those movies.
Right.
This was in Harrisville. I used to go fishing there, and that land always felt off and weird all the time. I never knew why. Okay,
Okay.
but anyway, this was in the woods right near there, and he gave me this location spot. He said, "Go there around midnight. You're going to see something." I guess one of his cousins or something was. So what was into some dark stuff. So anyway, I go there, I park, I start hiking in the woods, and once I get up over this little knoll, and I can tell, when somebody's got a fire and you can't see it, but it's like over a hill or something, you can see like light, like you know how it goes up
Yes.
and down because of a big fire, and I can hear like what sounds like chanting, but I can't make out exactly what they're saying, right? So I get up close, and there's this old log that's laying a dead log on the ground. So I get down on all fours and I crawl up there. I don't know what I'm going to run into here, right? So I peek up over this log, and this is what I see. There's a big bonfire. There's 12, 13 people. They all got robes on. Okay. There's a table next to a tree. They've got a goat tied to this table. There's a machete on the table. Okay.
Oh
And
God.
listen, they're chanting. They're chanting. It's just about midnight on Halloween. I'm like, oh, hell no. I backed out of there as slow as I could and got out of there. Okay. Come to find out, there was a lot of, satanic ritual stuff going on. And
Yeah, that's the day for it too.
yeah, it was going on there, and it was going on near Freetown. I would go to these places, but you look back, that's a bad Hollywood movie, and that was before I ever knew about Conjuring House or anything. Those people would have seen me or something. Who knows?
And you're
But
like, "Hey,
who?
wait a minute. Forget the goat. We
Yeah,
got a guy."
exactly. All right. I listen. I got out of there as quiet as I could, and I told my buddy, I said, "What did you send me to?" He goes, "Well, I know my cousin in some dark stuff, and you wanted to see some stuff." I said, "Don't ever do that again, man." I walked up on. I don't know what I walked up on, but it did not feel right. Didn't look
Isn't
right.
I'm telling you,
Mm,
a
mm-mm.
lot of people think that when people describe stuff like that, it's like, no, that's like movie stuff.
Uh-uh.
And it's not.
I'm going to tell you what, I experienced it firsthand, and that was freaky, man. And the weird part was, I years after, Conjuring House come out, I was like, and then I learned about that whole area, why it felt so off every time I was
Yes.
there. I felt like somebody was looking at me. Just felt like it just had a bad feeling to it every time I was
Yeah.
fishing there. And then I seen this other movie had Peter Fonda in it where they kind
Yeah,
of
Race with the Devil.
yeah, that's the movie. I'd never seen it before till about 5 years ago. I was like, deja vu. I was like, "Oh my god, these people, they heard them. Thank God they didn't hear me." But you don't know, what's going on. And there was history of a lot of satanic rituals and stuff going on. Matter of fact, earlier in the 80s, there was one cult there. They were taking homeless people and they were killing them.
Yes,
Okay.
people don't realize that there's a portion, everybody thinks, these serial killers and stuff, they'll take what they call soft targets, which is prostitutes and stuff.
That's what they were
But there's
targeting.
a but there's people that are into ritual sacrifice, for whatever satanic reasons that but this is the same thing. These are people that are not missed or that don't have family and anybody's gonna say, "Hey, Joe, that was here before.
Yeah.
He disappeared and
Exactly.
we
You
what
don't know.
happened to him? Who knows?"
You don't know. Like me, I could have been in the wrong place, wrong time. They might have
Yeah,
not knew what I could have just been a missing person. Who, you don't know.
exactly. Exactly. Who's to say, especially when it's a stranger on stranger, none of these people knew you or you think or they
No,
knew you, so
no. Right. They could have easily got rid of my truck and got rid of me.
sure.
I'm from 700 miles away. I
Exactly.
mean, I'd been a perfect target.
Yes, yes.
That was,
People
ooh,
don't realize that stuff like that happens and then police are left like with a what?
exactly. And see, this was back in 88, I think 88 or 89, but you don't have everybody didn't have a telephone where they can film, or you didn't have internet. Things were different. Things were a little bit
Yes.
more wilder, so to speak.
Yeah, and people think also, I want to say even in modern times with this thing about DNA and CSI effect, what I call a CSI effect, they think, hey, they're gonna come there and they're gonna arrive with a DNA kit and they're gonna figure it out.
Uh,
That's if they know where to look. Let's say let's do the hypothetical. They would have done away with you in the middle of the woods, 700 miles away. Who would know to look there? They'd probably look
exactly.
back where you lived at.
Exactly. Not only that, but there's other fine print to this stuff. In other words, unless you're somebody on importance, a lot
Of
of
course, yeah.
like all this tests and stuff that costs money. Okay, they're not
Yes,
gonna do
it
it for
does.
just
People don't realize just to send stuff to a lab.
yeah, they're not going to
Yes.
do it for average Joe
No,
or
no,
Jane,
no.
you know, and I'm sure there's a lot of unsolved crimes just for that reason alone.
Yes. I mean, every once in a while, that I know they do it on these cold cases because they'll have reopened it and, it'll make the papers. And I guess it makes the police department look like, hey, you're doing something.
Yeah, right, right.
But
And,
there's a lot of what they call Jane and John Does
yep, a
that
lot.
they don't even know who they are to begin with in order to track
Yep,
down who might have done away with them.
So true. So true. And again, those were my experiences being doing myself. After that, that was the end of being by myself pretty much.
Oh, that was your moment that you're like, nah,
That
no,
was
no.
my moment. How many times am I going to look a gift horse in the mouth? Okay, that's enough.
So what happened after that? You joined in a group or what did you do?
Well, after that, I still did some investigating, but I did it with like a friend. I'd have somebody come with me. But then I moved back to in this area in Ohio, and then um, I did a lot of things in the paranormal. But I helped a lot of teams if they needed somebody. If there was something in the house that was
Yeah,
not
I did that. A freelance is what I call it.
yeah, I helped 2 or 3 teams a lot. If they needed help with something that was kind of what they call inhuman, unhuman, or
Uh-huh.
whatever.
Yeah.
Boy, I've seen a lot of things you can't unsee, so to speak. Um,
Yes.
yeah, so I did a lot of that, and over the years, it just takes a lot out of you, and I just knew it was time for me to,
Yes.
it just took a lot out of me. In 2019, I was like, I'm just going to focus on doing a radio show, bring guests on who is in the same field, maybe educate somebody. Maybe one thing they say might save somebody from doing something stupid. And
Yes. There's a lot of stupid things that you can do in this field, by the way.
yeah, yeah, I
There's a lot of stuff that you can go. It's like, don't do that. No, no,
I've
no,
probably
don't do
done them
that.
all. Yeah, I've probably done them all one time or another because it was different. Now I've got a book over here, Hans Holzer, his big thick book.
Yes. Yes.
That
As a matter of
that was,
fact, that book. I have that book.
and then right beside I've got the Steiger book.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, those were I didn't have. It was different times. You didn't see. Now I
Yes.
tell people, look, there's a lot of investigators. If you're interested in it, try to call one up, see if you can go on investigation with them. Just be quiet, and take notes, and learn from them. But they didn't have stuff like that when I was around.
No.
It was hush hush, as you probably know.
No. Like I said, everybody thinks, they starting with ghost hunters. I'm gonna say those were like one of the earliest. And I tell everybody, look, when I was doing this, if somebody would have showed up in a van and a bunch of people would have come out of the van with
Yeah,
equipment,
yeah,
people would have been, what are you doing? You know,
yeah. Usually the van would say mystery machine on the side
or
of it.
something like, we didn't know.
Yeah.
People were like wigged out. They didn't want their neighbors to know that something like
Oh,
this was going on. If you're
yeah.
like, you're not going to tell anybody. And of course, they wouldn't want, because their neighbors
No.
are going to be,
Yeah.
who are all those people piling out of that van with all that equipment in there?
It's funny you mentioned that. Was many cases that went on that with other teams and with a couple other people that the clients would say, "Can you park around back or park up the
Yes.
street or
Yes.
or pull in my garage? I'll shut the door." I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, and that was especially back in the mid '90s on up right into the
Uh
probably
huh.
mid 2000s even.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. People don't realize. I tell everybody, sometimes if we would have people come from different, meet at a certain, we would never, because we knew that clients wouldn't like it.
yeah,
We would like go and maybe a mile away if there was a gas station or the parking lot of some place. We'd say, okay, let's meet there, and we do like a quick, hey, what did you think? Stuff that you couldn't say because you were there in front of the client.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
I always try to plan things or talk about the place, not on the location, because if there's something there that's nefarious, they might be listening in too.
of course, of course. Yeah, no, we had a couple of instances where we thought stuff had followed us,
Yep.
and we know when we went to that pit stop that we made, and but yeah, the idea was never, contrary to what everybody thinks. Most people did not want
Mm-mm.
their neighbors to know
Yeah.
that weird stuff was going on and that they
Right.
had called for help.
And you probably know this, Marlene, but I did a lot of kind of what they call ritzy neighborhoods, the well-to-do neighborhoods. You can tell they're living
Yes,
in a $1 million house. It's
yes.
brand new house even, or maybe not even that old, but people don't realize you could bring something into the house, or it could be something happened on that land.
Oh, sure.
And then you're like, where am I getting these hauntings from? And it takes a
Yeah.
lot of people in that kind of bracket to swallow their pride and try to get things fixed, but even to still say park in the back, in the back.
Well, you know what? And I guess a lot of times, as long as,
Yeah.
believe me, I've gone to, God, yeah, I've gone to some neighborhoods which were very nice, and everything. And we already knew because usually by then we had done like a pre-interview with one of the persons,
Hmm.
and one of the things that we assured is like, no, don't worry, confidentiality, and we're not gonna like be boisterous. And what I mean boisterous is we're not gonna be like, hey, it is goes, nothing like that. And we
Right. Right. Right.
you'd be surprised some of the stuff that I've seen and I've heard. Like, what are you doing?
Oh,
And usually those are the people. I'll tell you what, in my experience, the people that insist most on confidentiality are the ones that usually do have something going on
yeah.
for real.
And I've experienced a lot of times, a lot of people, what would happen was they might be experiencing something. Instead of calling somebody, they'll try to fix it themselves. And
Oh, sure, yeah,
sometimes that makes it worse because they may do something that even invites more things in, or you know what I'm saying? And it escalates and makes it even worse because it's hard for them because they've never had to. Some of them, it's hard for them to even to accept what they're going through, much less have to call somebody and ask for help and explain everything,
well,
you know?
you know what, I've said it before. I learned that, like I said, we usually had done like a pre-interview, but usually, depending on, I'm not going to interview kids, but I
Right.
would take them like aside, like out of earshot of the others. And I would say, well, you'd be surprised what we have found out.
Oh, yeah.
That
Yeah.
they think they've been cursed, or that at some point they were involved in occult stuff.
Mhm.
Sometimes
Yep.
that even their spouse or the other person
Yeah.
didn't know about it.
Right.
Okay. But that's why I learned, don't do it. You can do it, but if you say, oh, come on, let me, we, and I would say, well, has this ever happened to you before? Do like one of these, give me your history of,
Yeah.
and then they'd be like, well, I always be like, here we go.
I gotta tell you something else, Marlene. A lot of times I would treat it like I would look at it as like I'm a detective and I gotta get some answers to try to connect these dots to figure out
Yes.
what happened, how it got started, and then I can better know where to plan to fix these things. Now, as you probably know, a lot of people, they've done things, whether it be witchcraft
Yeah.
or Ouija boards or just
Yeah.
whatever it may be to invoke or invite, even unbeknownst to them,
Yes.
they
Yeah.
bring
Yeah.
something in.
Yeah.
But for them to admit that to you, sometimes
Yes.
that may take 20 minutes, an hour for them to finally confess
Yes.
that. I already know, like I can, when somebody does something, I can just feel it. Somebody's done something. Now,
Right. And
usually
by
I'm,
the way, sometimes whatever they did might have
yeah,
been years before.
yeah.
It didn't have to be recent.
No. Sometimes things lay dormant. Let me tell you
Yeah.
something. If
Yes.
something will happen, they'll bring something in the house or whatever, and it will act as a catalyst and just wake
Yes.
things up. And next thing you know, all you know what's broke loose all over.
Yes. Yes. I've had that. And you know what? I've even had. This is the where it gets tricky. I've had a couple of instances where there's been some type of infidelity, and the third person in the triangle has done some type of curse or think like I said, I'm gonna do this, and it'd be like, okay, and they're like, and I'm like, I'm not going there, but it's like, okay, at least I know what direction
Mhm.
this is coming from.
Right. And that's
All
half the
right.
battle is figuring out what's the root problem, what causes.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, once you can find that out, then you can start to build a plan of how to fix the problem, you know?
Sure. I
It,
mean, but yes, I've had some weird, and I tell them, look, tell me the truth because I'm
yeah,
here to help you. No, if you're
right.
gonna, I'm not gonna be like wigged out. I'm not here for that. I'm here to help you out. But
Yeah.
if you're going to, you know, and then along the way, I'm sure you've heard of it. You find out that it's not the place; it's them that's haunted.
Oh, yeah, a lot of time yeah, yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I have to convince them. I'm not there to judge them. Believe me, I've heard and seen it all. I'm not shocked or
Yes.
surprised. This is why
Yeah.
I'm here to help, you know? So that's why you call me. So
Yeah.
let's fix the problem, you know? But a lot of things happen. Sometimes people can go to yard sale and buy something, bring it into their house,
God.
and
Yes.
have a spirit attachment. Next thing you know, it's weird
Yeah.
stuff's
I tell
happening.
them you got. I go. Those. You know how people put out stuff on the curb,
Oh,
and
yes.
you'll come across something. Man, that's in great shape. Who'd want to give it away?
Yeah, right.
And
Why
it'd
they
be
put
like,
that in the curb? Well, you might
yeah.
find out why, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, here, come here, you guys. Give it a couple of days. and you'll find, it was Uncle Harry's favorite chair.
Yeah.
And guess what? It's still Uncle Harry's favorite chair, even though he's a dearly departed,
Right.
whatever.
Or
And
somebody cleaned out an old hotel and they got a mirror that's been in a room for 50 years, just soaking up
yes,
everything, and it's in the garbage, but it looks new. Don't bring that home. Leave that lay.
right. Or you got, yeah. I've had, and sometimes it takes a little while when you talk to people to like when they start saying, well, after these things have started happening, especially in a place where they didn't have any type of manifestation, and all of a sudden, and it's like, okay, let's see if we can figure out what is the point of origin. What did you do? Where did you go? Or in this case,
Yep.
what did you bring home? And you'd be surprised how many people will, when they start like actually like thinking back,
Yeah.
like what
Right.
was the first thing? What happened? What was going on around that time?
Yeah.
And then you'll see like the light bulb go off.
Yep. And then you can start to formulate a plan of how to fix the problem. But sometimes that process, as you know, it takes an hour
Mhm.
or half a day to get to
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I've had people call me back afterwards and go, hey, you know what? I started thinking about what you asked me.
Okay.
And I think that it was after X, Y, and Z. After I went to the cemetery,
Yeah, you never know. You
after
never know.
I bought that stuff into the house, after and that's another thing. Sometimes people think that when they go to these, if you want to call them places where they're conjuring stuff or invoking stuff, even if you're in the back just watching because you're curious, doesn't matter. You don't have
Those
to be
are
an actual participant.
Yes, listen, I find sometimes those are the ones that get targeted because they're usually
Yes.
they're
Yeah.
usually the ones that may be a little bit weaker link, and that's why they're not
Yes.
they know that, so maybe even subconsciously is why they didn't even get involved in it.
Yes.
Or you might have something going on that is affecting you emotionally in your life, which
Yes.
drops your guard. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Your defenses, and things will latch on or follow you home, and
Yes.
because you're an easier target for it.
Yeah. It's stuff that, like you said, either physically, mentally, emotionally, you're going through maybe something stressful and you're just,
Right.
like you said, you're the weak link, you're the easy target, and yeah, that's it. It latches onto you.
Yeah.
By the way, speaking of that, have you ever had anything follow you home?
Yeah.
I know you were. Go ahead.
Well, now my place is like a sanctuary. It's like you ever watch the Supernatural, the Winchesters, how their place
Yes.
is. That's the way mine is. I got to be able to come here and know I'm safe. Nothing's getting it. But that's a process. It took a while to get to that point. Now, yeah, I had
Hmm.
a couple of attachments myself. They were all. I look back. I dropped my guard. There was one time I
Right.
was a low life of my life. One time, the other time I dropped my guard, and yeah, it happened twice. I got rid of them. But yeah, that's how it happened with me. And now
Okay.
especially with what I did, I had to make sure that everything is sealed up here like Fort Knox, where nothing can come home or come with me. They can't even
Okay.
get in my vehicles or nothing. But I'm a little more above and beyond because of what I did. Now, the average
Right.
person probably not going to do as much as I did, and probably wouldn't need to. But yeah, I've definitely had some things follow me before.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what did you notice? Was it just what uh phenomena
Well,
or nightmares or what tipped you off that's like,
well, the worst one when it followed me home, it was a kind of a low life time of my life. Girlfriend left. It was like 2016. After a few years, finally split up, and she had some dark stuff on her toward the end, and then I was crossing over spirits. I was dislodging attachments. I was investigating. I was exercising, cleansing places. And
okay.
just all this happened all at once, right? And then it seemed like my third eye even opened up more. And next thing I know, I started feeling like I knew something. I knew I had attachment, but I was kept telling myself, no, it can't be. But I knew, and I didn't feel right. I felt tired all the time. I was having spirits like waking me up, and it's like, where are they? First of all, they're in my house. Where are they coming from? This is freaking me out. And then I was thinking, no, I'm just dreaming this. It can't be. But it
Okay.
can't. And then what happened to really validate, make me say to myself, okay, that's it. Stop denying it. A friend of mine who is a incredible psychic medium, the greatest one I've ever known. I hadn't talked to her in 4 months. She calls me up and says, "Look, you got an attachment you need to get rid of." And I
Wow.
was like, "What? How do you know that?" She says, "I know." And she was right, man. And she told me what to do, and she taught me so much over the years. But I got and here's the thing: when I got it off of me, I almost passed out. I mean, it felt like, oh, I can't even explain. It felt like 1,000,000 just lifted off me, and I was like,
Okay.
wow, it was amazing. That felt like $1,000,000, and then I slept for about a day because it was really just sucking the life out of me, you know.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, and its funny part was because I learned from her, and I learned from that how to dislodge spirits from other people that would attach to them, and I did it, and every time I would do it, I would tell the people, "When it comes off you, you may feel faint, you may feel
Uh-huh.
dizzy, you may feel sick, you're gonna feel extremely tired," and every time they would. I've got someone
Yeah.
film, it was amazing, mind-boggling. Some of them
Yes.
wouldn't believe it, and I would show them the video after, "Here you this serious stuff," they really
Yes.
with some spirits, man, they can really just drain you, you don't realize
Yeah.
how much they're drawing from you.
Exactly. Like like that. I'm sure that analogy, like the battery, like you're like the battery
Yeah,
for them, or that their how can I say their attachment to you is, and I'm sure you've come across this because I used to do spirit attachment through hypnosis and or dislodging them, where if you've got an attachment, it's in your aura, where sometimes people started displaying physical symptoms of that spirit. For
mm,
example, if it's let's go with the old man one. This was an old guy, had a bad knee or a bad leg, and all of a sudden this person starts having bad knee or bad leg, whatever. They don't have any injury that can
alright,
account for it.
yeah,
In other words, that you can even have physical manifestations of
yeah.
what that spirit was like. It's not a possession. I'm not
No,
saying it's a possession,
right, right.
but you start. It's so close to you. In other words,
Yeah, it's true, and, I've dislodged a lot of spirits from people that they might have had an addiction to drugs, and
oh
and
yes,
they've quit the
absolutely,
drugs, but they wouldn't do the work to keep from them. They end up talking to the wrong people, and they would trigger them. And what happens, I have found with a lot of research I did into these clients, some of these clients, they would go to places to get back into drugs. And, a lot of these places are like drug houses, and people
mm-hmm.
OD and die in there. Okay. And so
Yes,
now, say you OD'd and died in there, and you're a spirit, and you're already kind of living a nefarious life, and you're at a drug house, and somebody's coming in there, what are you going to do? You're going to attach to somebody because now you can live life doing drugs vicariously through this person.
yes,
And you're always
exactly,
going to be in their head, keeping them not clean, but keeping them doing drugs.
yes,
I have did a lot of cases that involved that very thing. One I did, the guy was trying to quit the drugs, and I knew he had a
uh-huh.
spirit attachments. I got rid of spirit attachments. He was clean and good for 6 months until one day he didn't do the work.
Yeah,
You can't be talking to
yeah,
people that do drugs, and that's what happened. He went back there, and it all back to ground zero again.
yeah. It's something that they call either piggyback or nesting. All right, where yeah, and you see it a lot, like you said, in the addiction stuff. Because see, what happens is the spirit doesn't have a physical body anymore to enjoy the
Right.
whatever the addiction was, alcohol,
Yep.
drugs, whatever. So it latches onto another addict, drives their behavior, and especially when that person either blacks out or goes whatever, they basically do like a temporary possession of the
Yeah.
body and uses their senses
Yeah.
to experience what they can't anymore.
Yep.
So when this person, like you said, is trying really hard, their best intentions are, I want to go sober,
Mhm.
whatever. I'm not
Yep.
saying that it's all spirit. The addiction, there's absolutely a physical component,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
but they find it more hard. It's like if you put like a 20-ton rock on somebody, because this attachment doesn't want them to be sober.
No, no, and I've did a lot of research into a lot of the clients I've helped, and with some other people that weren't my clients, just to I dug deep into this, and I have found there is definitely a connection with spirits that they like I say they may OD in a drug house.
Uh huh.
Now they're hanging around there, and the right people they're
Yeah.
going to attach to because they're living life
Yes.
through. And then a couple of them I talked to. it seemed like there was always something in his head not letting him, and it was these spirits, they're telling him to do the
Yes.
wrong things, keep doing drugs, don't be clean, and
Yeah.
it's a mental, spiritual battle with them 24 hours, and they're
Yes.
already on the fence about doing drugs, so it's a lose-lose for them.
Yeah. It makes it more. It's a difficult situation that's made more difficult
It is. And
because. Yeah.
I was mind blown with the research. I really dug into that for
Yeah.
about 5 years with that stuff because I just and I there was so many connections. I bet if we could really tell, there would be so much that you learn
Oh, sure.
about spirits attaching to them. But
Sure.
that
But
was
see, and this is the thing. Like what you just said. Let's say you've got somebody that was doing drugs, and you're able to clear them out. What happens is that if they keep going, hanging out with the same people or going to the same places, it's inevitable
oh yeah.
that they're going to pick up an attachment again.
Yeah, and then it gets to a point where because I can't keep helping the same people over and over
Yeah,
because they're
exactly.
taking you for granted, okay?
Sure.
Because I'm
Yeah,
putting my life on the line helping too, my wealth and health and stuff. So they don't take that into consideration, and some of them, it's I can only do so much. You got to stop, but don't going to these places. But
sure.
perfect scenario, those spirits hang around. They're looking for the right subject.
Yeah, yeah. I've run across that, and yeah, that's why I'm saying that, and it's like difficult to ever prove it,
Yeah,
but
you can't prove it,
but
right?
you always will. These people, they'll even tell you at some point, oh yeah, I've always felt that I've had something or somebody with me.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yep. So
Uh,
true.
and you can say, well, your imagination is like, no, it's not that. It's not that exactly. They're like they may be doing drugs, but they're not crazy. How's that?
Yeah. No, that's right. They're not high all the time. They think back of what's going on. Why did I get here? I didn't want to
Sure.
be here. Well, I don't want to do this. What's going on?
Right. Their logic.
Yeah.
Even though I mean, I know, I understand there's a physical component as far as the reward centers in your brain and all that other stuff, but still, their behavior is driven by something else that you can't measure it in the sense of anything like that.
Right.
Let me ask you now what you're doing. Did you ever have an experience where you said, besides that solo one, where you said, this is above my pay grade?
One time. There's only
Okay.
one. There's only there, and my whole life of helping people. There was only one time. I
Okay.
said I can't do it. I I've been successful helping just about everybody as long as they afterwards want to help themselves. But there was only one that,
Okay.
that I did not even attempt to try to help. Okay. This was about 5, 6 years ago, and it was about a year or two right before I retired. But anyway, this person that lives in my town here, nice lady. I knew she had some attachments because after I've had them and can just pick up on them, like I can look at a picture and can feel them or just see them. And
Uh-huh.
and I knew she had them because she was doing things, filming herself, and you could see these stuff at night. It was just they're feeding off of her, for the love of God, right? And they're attaching to her, and I'm pretty sure she probably got a portal or two in her house. But anyway, I knew she had them. She says, "Hey, can we meet somewhere and talk?" And so we met at a little restaurant. And as soon as I met her, I was like, "Oh boy, I could feel it, right?"
Uh-huh.
And she said, I'm thinking about getting them removed, just so nonchalantly. I was like, yeah. She goes, you think you might? I said, here's the thing. I figured she had about 23 different spirits attached to her.
Whoa.
I just to validate that, I had my friend who I was like amazed at how good she was. I didn't say nothing to her. I just, give her pictures. What do you think about it? She goes, yeah, I think about 20, 23, 24, 23. That's what I figured. That some of them are so it's I don't know how to explain it. It's almost as if you're trying to if you're in a battle, right? And no matter if you're the best at swordsman in the world and you're facing 23 different,
Yeah, exactly.
it's a matter of numbers. Like it's almost like you throw a piece of bread into a bunch of 23 hungry fish. You can't fight that many. They'll just bum rush you. You can't defend all that. I can't. That was way above my pay grade. I didn't know how to begin to even help her. It was just so
I
much.
have to ask, how did she get? What was she doing, or where was she going?
She wouldn't go no. Well, she'd go to places, but I think there's portals in her house. She would film it, and post it and stuff. The poor lady, God bless her.
Okay, there you
But
go.
you could see the things coming. Like I even believe
You
some
know
of the
what?
stuff.
Those sometimes are the most difficult people when they're like looking for it or welcoming it, for lack of a
Oh,
better word. And if you ever tell them, hey, if we could get rid of this, you can't dabble in the paranormal anymore. They're like, but why not? And it's
yeah,
like, okay, forget it. Forget it.
no,
You're,
right. And there's more to this story because that I knew that was way above. I wouldn't even. And here's the thing, you can't let your pride get in the way or anything. Because if I would try to attempt that, I would have been in danger. It would have just made
sure.
things worse for her. It was like, no, that was the only time. So then I'm looking at my phone, and it now my phone was at 80%, and now it was at zero. The stuff that was
Wow.
on around her, it literally killed my phone. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so I go
Yeah.
home. I remember my house is pretty much close to a sanctuary. It wasn't quite what it was today back then, but anyway, I'm sitting in my living room and I hear my water turn on in my bathroom. Now I'm going to tell
Oh
you,
boy.
yeah,
Oh
wait a
my
minute.
God.
The water faucet in my bathroom is one of those that you've got to lift up,
Uh,
okay? And
yeah.
you either go left or right for hot or cold, but you got to physically lift it up. It's not one of
Yes.
those that could accidentally, in any shape or form, turn on by itself,
And I
okay?
laugh because that's unmistakable.
There's no way that could come on by itself. I don't.
Yeah.
You can debunk that 3 ways of Sunday. That is not happening.
Yes.
I hear it running, I'm like instantly like, oh hell no, this ain't happening. So I instantly exercise my house, me and everything in here, and I sent it on its way. One
Right.
of them that decided it was going to come home with me and kill my
Sure.
phone. I had to get another phone. I took my phone to a cell phone. That's all they do is work on cell phones. I took it to him. He looked at it. He goes, I never seen this before. Your motherboard is totally fried. What did you do? And I'm like, I didn't even attempt to tell him. I didn't do anything.
Right. You wouldn't believe me if I told you.
Yeah. That was the only time that I didn't even, I was like, no, can't. I just can't, you know?
Whatever happened to her? Did you find out?
Oh, yeah. She's still doing the same things.
Okay,
She's
so she's
a
got.
really nice lady. It's just, I think she's just killing herself. I really do.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
And I'll tell you another thing I have found, Marlene, with all my research is a lot of people that have spirits in their house or spirits attached to them over the years, their doctors will tell them that their potassium levels are really low. There's a
Really?
correlation. Yeah, there's a correlation with potassium levels and a lot of spirit activity or a lot of exposure to spirits. Also,
That's interesting.
I have found that in my research also. And I'm talking boots on the ground research. I'm not talking about reading something. I mean, actually asking the people, going to the places, documenting these things. Yeah. Yep.
That is so interesting.
Mhm.
Potassium levels.
Yeah,
Hmm.
potassium levels. And I asked, like, if I think somebody's been exposed, I used to ask them if I thought they were exposed to a lot of spirits for a long time. I would ask them just curiosity. I say, "Does your doctor tell you your potassium levels low, or are you on any potassium medicine?" They'd be like, "Yeah, how'd you know?" Well, it would validate right there my research that I
Yes.
was doing. I was amazing.
That's very interesting because we always think of um how's this? It's like a passive effect of being around discarnate spirits. All right? And in other words, you always think of just the effect of, oh, I got scared because I saw something, or whatever. Or the psychological part, which is, well, like, maybe you feel like this is not a good place to live, or anxious. But here we're talking actual passive effects on your body,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
on your health. How's that?
Yeah, on your health.
On your health.
I look at it like this: if God or your higher power, whatever it may be, wanted us to have spirit exposure to us or attached to us,
Mm.
he would have made us with those. It's not natural. It's not meant to be.
It
So,
isn't.
over a long term period, it's got to have some kind of effect on people.
Across, if you look at all, I want to say civilizations, cultures, Not even religious beliefs, just ethnic beliefs.
Right.
The dead have always been, you don't want the dead around the living. Always. You see that across all cultures around the world.
Right. Right.
All
And
right.
there's yes. Right.
And
Agreed.
the fear, and in some cases, you would even have some civilizations where you didn't even talk about the dead for fear of bringing them into or calling them. How's that? And by this, I'm not saying ancestor worship. I'm talking, even though, there's I know some belief systems that believe in ancestor worship, but I'm talking in general. There was like the dead are dead, and you don't want to have the dead or as in spirits
Right.
around you if you're alive.
Right. Right. And um yeah, I mean there's and I have interviewed and investigated with people that have what they call people that have died and come back.
Uh huh.
And a couple of them, and I can't prove it, but I think they think so too, that they may have brought something back with them, or maybe they were more open to things and it attracted more things to them unbeknownst to them. And I've seen a little bit of correlation with that sometimes too.
But you know what? I'm glad you bring that up because there's a very kumbaya thing going on with a near death experience. And I think, oh, that's wonderful. The tunnel of light and all. Blah, blah, blah. That's fine. That's wonderful. But more than once, I have heard that of people coming back with something.
Yeah. And
Okay.
right. Right.
And we,
Yeah, agreed.
yeah. And
Agreed.
nobody ever wants to talk about that part of the near death experience.
Now I've had it. Listen, it was hard to get a few people to even talk to me, but I did get over the years some of them to talk to me, and it correlated or lined up with some of the things that made sense because a couple of the cases, these people had nothing. They weren't doing anything. They lived on the
Right.
property. They didn't bring anything in. The
Yeah.
only thing different was they were in an accident, maybe passed away for 5 minutes and came back or whatever.
Yes.
Or and then once they got home, weird stuff started happening.
Yes. That was the nexus of it. That was like you said, like when you go back, like when did this all start? Well, it's just
Yeah. Yeah, right. That's you gotta play detective and figure these things out, but
yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
you don't figure it out right away, but the client will usually they'll have a light bulb moment.
Well, you know what everybody thinks of stuff like that is, oh, that's a great script for a Hollywood movie. And it's like,
No.
you'd be surprised.
No, you you don't wanna listen, you don't wanna live that stuff. You just
No,
don't,
they
and
don't.
the
They
problem with a
don't.
lot of these shows on TV, people watch them, and it's life isn't nothing like that, and not only that, they take it for granted, they think, "Oh, we got a problem, we'll just call somebody and they'll come in and fix it, and we'll just
Oh
keep doing
yeah,
it, and
you
they'll just
think?
keep coming in and fix it." Well, you know, this life just isn't like that.
No, it's not. And I've told people, I said, you, and this is, we're talking here, if you do actually have something supernatural going on. At the end of the day, let's say you call in, whether it's a paranormal group or clergy or somebody to help you out, you're still the one living there. You're still the one that has to stay behind.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize that you still have to keep up doing whatever it was, whether it was prayers, whatever your religious beliefs are.
Marlene, it's a lot like drug addiction. You still
Yeah.
gotta do the work, you
Yes.
know? And I'll tell you another thing, that I've always said, and I found this in my research, the paranormal and experiencing is like a drug. It's very addictive.
Yeah.
People get addicted
Yes.
to it. Me, I can take it or leave it. I can walk away. I only did it just because I wanted to get a grip on things with spirits and maybe turn it around and help people. I'm somebody that doesn't. I don't want to search it or research. I did it for years. I'm good with it, but some people they get addicted to it,
Yes, they do. I've
and
seen that.
yes, and it gets dangerous because that is their drug, and they will do things
Yes.
that because here's what happens after a while, because spirits don't do what you want them to do. Sometimes you might sit there for 10 hours and not see nothing. Well, you know what happens to somebody that is addicted to it? They're
Yes.
gonna start maybe provoking or doing things they shouldn't be doing to try to amp things up.
Yeah. Yes. Like they become,
Yeah.
and I've seen some of the stuff that's like, man, oh, this is gonna go so wrong. Especially that some, and I'm sure you've seen it, that confrontation or that provocation kind of approach. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what? Best case is you're talking to thin air and there's nothing there.
Best
you
case,
know?
look, Put it away and come back another day. Don't start doing blood sacrifices or doing things
Right.
that you
Yes.
can't undo because
Yes.
it's just gonna your life's gonna be
Right.
miserable.
Right. Exactly. Or worst case scenario, you don't have a ghost of a dead person. You've got an inhuman thing that's going, oh yeah? You want to
Right.
what?
And, another thing I always tell people, because people that are sometimes addicted to paranormal or they get bored, they want to start investigating their own house. There's probably nothing there, but I always say, don't do that, man. If it's not broke, don't fix it, because
Yes.
you may, unbeknownst to you, invite something into your house just
Sure.
by doing something whatever you're doing.
Haven't you come across investigations where people will say, hey, I had a group or a person or whatever come over and it's gotten worse?
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a thing what I call my own little thing. I say people have their own spirit baggage. Okay,
Uh huh.
it's like there's a certain store you mentioned earlier in the show that starts with a W. If
Yes.
sometimes when I go to that store, Marlene, before I ever get out of the car, I will try to get a read on it. So there's been several times I'm like,
I know where you're
there's
going
been
with
several
this.
times I'm like, nope,
I
not,
know where you're going with
not
this.
today. I'm going home. Okay, but listen, there's I call spirit baggage. Sometimes people bring their own spirit baggage, and here's
Yes.
the other thing: like these places that nothing against them that sell you so many hours. You come in and investigate. Well, you got it's like a raw revolving door. You got all these people coming, investigators even. They're
Yeah.
bringing some of them got spirit baggage, and they're coming there, and it's really acting as a
Yes.
catalyst. Maybe there's something staying there that wasn't there before, and vice versa.
Yes.
Yeah,
I said before, I've had, because after a while, since I've been doing this for so long, I've got a lot of people that will reach out to me. And I've had, especially groups that have been around for a while, they'll call me up and they'll say, Marlene, after we brought on this new person on the group, we started having problems.
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
like, yeah, what's
yeah,
going on? And they'll
right.
say, no, this and that and that and this. And you know what? We're realizing that it's not the places we're going to.
Hmm.
It's whenever we have this person as part of the investigation.
Yeah,
And even in some places. But see, this is the thing. How do you vet somebody on a new member unless it's very visible?
yeah. Yeah, it's hard, because a lot of people are like you mentioned earlier are haunted. They
Yeah.
just are, or
And
they
they've
have
got that, like you said, that baggage.
yeah,
And
spirit
then
bags.
later on, the group is like, holy crap, we're bringing our own.
I call it
Don't worry, we're going to investigate. But by the way, one of our investigators,
yeah, I call it spirit baggage.
yeah,
I do. Like I always say, because people always ask me too, what's your favorite piece of equipment? I always say my favorite piece of equipment was just me.
your body.
The human body, man. If you really
Yes.
put your mind to it, you can be the best investigator, the best tool out there. And we used to use I used to go because what I could feel, and I had a couple other psychic mediums, and we'd have our equipment try to validate all one thing, is like finding portals and all these things. And if all these things line up, it's probably something to it. It's not like
Right.
not one person or one piece of advice, like all of it. And that's the hard part when you got somebody, especially if you, like you say, you want to vet them coming into the group, you might want to I don't know, have a one-on-one with the other members just to, get to know each other, see how
Yeah.
see if they're picking anything up or feeling anything, or, take an EMF. If your EMF's going off on somebody and they, they don't have no devices on them, there's probably something to it.
Yeah. But yeah, I've had a couple of calls from team leaders on this, and it's like, how do I, what do I do? And I was like, oh boy.
Yeah,
Well, that's a difficult thing to tell,
it is. It is. It's hard.
to tell somebody, hey, the client's not going to appreciate us bringing our own.
But they already got spirits. We don't want to bring any more in there. Yeah.
Yeah, but that happens every once in a while. But yeah, it works both ways. I tell people, if you're going to have a paranormal group come in, make sure you vet them, because you're basically letting strangers into your house.
Yeah, you got to get to know. It's true. You got to get to know them, because listen, here's the thing: if they're going to be on your team, you've got to be able to trust them. I mean, because
Yes, of
your
course.
well being, your life is on the line, really, because you don't know what stuff that can happen.
Sure. Just, I mean, human behavior down to the paranormal, whichever way you look at it, whether you're the client, the person joining a group, that's another one, or the group itself as to who you let in. In
Right.
this type of work, you got to you got to be careful who you say okay to.
You do. You can't
because
let your guard down for 1 minute. You gotta be on it. Like, even me, even though I retired, I still have to keep my guard up because I'm
yeah,
sure I poked a lot of bears during my
yeah,
lifetime.
sure, sure. And you'll and I tell everybody, it's, when you do this, whether you want to, like, when you do this work, not that you're the so-called psychic, but you develop, everybody in the team will, it's, if they stick to it, they develop some type of sensitivity, like
Oh,
you
yeah.
said, in your body.
Yeah.
It's inescapable. Everybody after a while gets some level of sensitivity to them, as in that, okay, you get it, you
You
develop it, it's
you
just part
will.
of what comes with it.
You will. I can tell, like, if I'm in a place and the sicker I feel, I that
Hmm.
means the worse something is. I already
Yes.
know. I've been doing this so long, I can be driving down a country road in the middle of
Yes.
nowhere. I did this not too long ago, and there was an old farmhouse, probably 200 years old, and I could just feel it beaming at me. There was something over in there. I wasn't even within 100 yards of it, but I could feel it. I couldn't imagine what it would be like going into the place.
Sure. Yes. Yes. And some things, it's like, yeah, that you think, well, in other words, you don't have to walk into the actual building or whatever it is.
Sometimes you could just feel it.
You can feel it. You can feel it. And I tell everybody, haven't you ever been to a place that you're like, I need to get out of here? This place is like, there's, I don't know
Right.
what it is, but I need to get out of here.
Exactly. That's your spirit guides or whatever you wanna call it, trying to help you get you out of there.
Yes. Yeah.
And your gut feeling is never wrong. If it's telling you to get out of there, you need to leave.
Of course. Of course. Yeah, JC, has been wonderful to speak to you. Let me ask you, for my podcast listeners, where can they find you at? And when is your show?
Yeah, my show is JC the Hitman Show. Podcast. It's on Night Dreams Talk Radio Network. Matter of fact, starting in September, my show is going to air on Mondays, and it will be at 9 p.m. Eastern, at 6 p.m. Pacific. I'm on all the major apps except YouTube, which very shortly I'll be on that one.
Okay.
And yeah, the Night Dreams, I'll be uh, the Monday show for the Night Dreams, and then Gary's got the Wednesday through Friday.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much. It has been wonderful to talk to you. I really enjoyed it. Because, see, you've been around, you've done this work for a long time, and
Yeah,
you've
you can say it.
seen
Yeah, thank you
the,
so much.
the
Yeah,
progression of it.
I really enjoyed it too, Marlene. Thank you so much.
It has been great. Take care.
You too. Thank you.
Good luck to you.
You too. Bye.
Bye bye. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you hear me sniffling. I've been living today, even though it's like I said, a an allergy attack gone amok. I've been living on Dayquil and Mucinex, and I hate feeling like this. I hate feeling sick. I mean, nobody likes to feel sick, but I hate feeling sick. To me, is, I think I got a million things to do. I can't afford to feel like this. And yeah, yeah. So anyway, I like speaking to JC. Obviously, I'm gonna put a link to his thing, but when I, again, you guys have heard me say this before. I really like talking to somebody who's been around. How's this? Somebody that hasn't romanticized paranormal work. And people will say, "Well, what do you mean by that?" All these paranormal shows, when I say romanticize it, they've made it look, they all they show is the, okay, whatever, the investigation, the mystery, the discovery, the confrontation, or the ghost reveal, blah 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 blah. And that's all great, but when you do paranormal research, there's a lot of times that none of that really happens. In other words, sometimes you end up with wasted night. All right. Um, Sometimes your timing is off. Sometimes, as in, yeah, you think there's something there, but whatever it is, it's not. Mm-mm. And, or you end up with just, in other words, you have to be really patient and want to do it and not glamorize it, because if you go for just the romanticized aspect of it, when I mean romanticized, I don't mean like as in romance love. I'm saying as in, you're bound to be disappointed. You are. All right, that's without considering what JC was describing, the downside of what he was crazy doing that solo stuff. Crazy. All right. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can get up this picture of me going into this of me going and doing this I don't know why it's not showing up. Why I can't get it to show up. By the way, if I can get it, this picture from 2005 was out of the blue. Out of the blue. I had somebody come and tell me, hey, I've gotten access after hours to this whatchamacallit. I've gotten access. Oh, you know what? Maybe I could do it this way. Okay, then why aren't you doing this? I've gotten access after hours to this elementary school. This is in a part of Miami called Coral Gables. Coral Gables, it's like in the middle of Miami, kind of. Well, now it's in the middle of Miami. But it was it was established like in the 1920s, and they were trying to, it's, by the way, it's a very, back then and even now, it was like a very ritzy area of Miami, Coral Gables. And it was established to have like a Middle Eastern Moroccan flair, a lot of the barrel tiled roofs. Very nice. So this school is pretty old. I'm guessing it must be from the 1930s, 1940s, that kind of deal. And at the last minute, they I want to know why I can't open this and it's making me crazy. They call me up and they say, hey, Marlene, I got access. This is not really an investigation. I just need you to come with me. This is like a once in a lifetime thing. Normally, they don't let people into the elementary. And if I remember correctly, I think it was that the person knew either the janitor, somebody there, let them after hours. And it was, I'm going to tell you right now, because this was in September of 2005 when we went in there. And it was like they've had, well, obviously one of the things was I can't get this up, and I'm really upset because I can't get it going. I'm very upset about this, and I don't know why it's doing that. When I can't get stuff up, it just gets me upset. But anyway, they tell me they have a sighting of a little girl. What else did they say? And what they think was, it looked like it was the lady, she looked to be a teacher being sighted, but they said that the way she was dressed, it was from the 1950s kind of timeline, the way she was dressed. They had seen sightings of her. But remember, going into a public school that is still a public school to do an investigation is extremely difficult. Extremely difficult. And by the way, this is schools that were built during this time period were open-ended. Anybody that's gone to a school, now you go to these schools and they're all enclosed. They have one entrance and exit door. But these older schools, they're open. Like they have arches and the classrooms will open up into the, they have hallways and you're there. Like, there's no middle entrance. And you might go into a courtyard and maybe you'll have, so she had been sighted all over the place, that and a kid. And it's like, I'm not surprising. As a kid, it's like, take your pick. Who could it be? What? And, we did it. We took some pictures and, we got some weird readings. You couldn't stay there too long. But one of the things that if I remember correctly, and you know what, I'm going to dig up the information on it. I believe that at some point there was what was it? Either a child went missing or disappeared or something like this. And that, because this was, I was being given this information by the other person that was there that had been doing the research, was that somehow or other there had been a collusion between this teacher and this janitor person. Well, apparently sounds like he was a pedophile, as in getting this kid to them. That there was something along those lines about that. I just can't remember now. Remember, this is 2005. We're talking almost 20 years. And let me see. Hold on. Let me see if I can at least get a picture of myself there. Hold on. And it was and it was one of those places that we could never go back to finish it, to, and let's face it, stuff like I said, it was difficult enough as it is to get into places like that, much less to follow up or anything of this nature. And let's face it, this things like this nature were, if we go with that 1950s timeline, they kept a very low profile on stuff like this. In other words, it didn't make the paper, even if you could research it, and without knowing to say the name of, let's say, who you were looking for. But yeah, and there was definitely something there, because we're talking here. Okay, if this thing was it was built, I would say, in the 1930s, give or take. It had to have been there, what, at least 60 or 70 years. And I mean, a lot of things could have gone on there. A lot of things. Let me see if I can. And it's one of those places, if I can get it up, you'll see I had my, I mean, I was like, it was one of those things where you get called and you go, hey, you gotta go, but when is it that we're gonna do? Right now, get over here. What do you mean? Yeah. I was like, wait. In other words, sometimes that's that. By the way, that's another aspect of going into paranormal research. Not all the time do you get the luxury of having a planned visit of, okay, we're going to show up at this time, at this hour, at this place. Sometimes you will get calls like this where it's like, hey, we've gotten access to this location or something. Get here now, or we're not going to be able to do this again at a later date. And that's amazing. That happens. That happens, especially in places like this type where you just can't, you know that window is open this one time, and that's it. Beyond that, you're out of luck. So let me see. Hold on. Marlene. Let me see. Elementary. Here we go. I'm trying to figure out a way that I can open this up. Here, I'll show a picture of myself. Let me see if I can do it this way. All right, let's see. Share screen. Here we go. I had to open it up in one of my programs. So there I am. I'm standing. This is the hallways. You could see how they have these long hallways. I mean, I put on a t-shirt, a pair of jeans, and I was off to the races. Okay. That's what I mean. You see this? How you have like open. This is not like these are older schools. This is not like the and it was dark. And I'm almost positive there was something going on there. I'm like one of those that, but without having the chance to return there, it was like, And by the way, you see this right here. Yeah, I used to wear that just as a protection. I had some protection stuff in there, some quartz crystal, had a cross in there. I had other things in there. Because, well, it's not that you just never know. It's like guaranteed. These are places that you go into that you got to really be careful. Because any structure that's been up that long, a lot of things can happen. Or a lot of things have happened. How's that? That's what I meant to say. A lot of things have happened. And let me see. Yeah. This is as you can tell, it's been a renovated building. But anyway, that's one of my historical pictures of when I was doing that type of work. In other words, you pull on some jeans and you go. And sometimes I'm gonna dig. I gotta look at my notes. God, I got notes on all this stuff that I'm almost positive. And that's another thing, contrary to what you see with all these shows, where at the end, you get the story, or it's tied up and whatever. There's a conclusion. Sometimes you go into some of these investigations, and for different reasons, like this one, we couldn't get entry back, or the client doesn't want you back for whatever. You never have that resolution. You never have the chance to do more investigation, or even present it, or say, there's something there. I just need a chance to go back and find out. Sometimes you're always the cliffhanger. And I've had and I've said it before. I've had where it's not even that the client will not only not let you back, it's because they've decided to move. In other words, they bring you in and you're ready to go back, and you're like, hey, I'm going to help you out, but we need to go back in there, whatever. They're like, don't worry, because we're moving. This is their solution. In other words, they don't want to try to figure it out. To them, their solution is, we're out of here. That happens. And then, if you ever have sometimes you find out through them or through other, if you want to make the effort, especially if it's a rental, that there's a revolving door of renters for that property. There's a revolving, and I've done it. I've done stuff where I've gone spoken to neighbors, and with permission, I knew what I was doing. It wasn't like, you don't go to talking to neighbors because you don't want your client to like be going, what are you doing? And I found out, that place doesn't keep people there that long. Yeah, no, definitely. Every few months, or maybe, you could tell people are desperate to get out of there. Yeah, it happens. But anyway, guys, I hope you like this show with JC. I hope to have him back. Please listen to his show. Please sign up for my Substack newsletter. Go to mppellicer.com. Go to MiamiGhostChronicles.com. Again, you're going to find me on all the major podcast platforms. You're going to find me not only on YouTube, but on BitChute, Rumble, Cloud Hub, any of those places you're going to find me. And as a matter of fact, you can find the shows on Roku, for example. You can look up the Rumble channel. You can add it to your channel list. You can see me there that way. It doesn't have to be on computer. I'm on Apple Podcasts, all those fun places. You can find either the video or the podcast version of the show. But again, you've all been wonderful, and I gotta go because I think I gotta go take some more. Probably I'll take a NyQuil or something. I don't know what I want to take. I'm telling you, I could probably do, that commercial that they show the person. I think it's NyQuil or DayQuil or one of these shows, one of these commercials where the person is like snoring with their mouth open because they're so out of it. I think I gotta go do one of those. Yeah, I need to sleep, and like, even if I do that open mouth stuff. Anyway, guys, till next time, take care.